We have all been there. You walk into the kitchen, stand in the middle of the room, and suddenly realize you have absolutely no idea why you went in there. Or you spend 10 minutes frantically searching for your reading glasses, only to find them perched on top of your head. When this happens, a cold shiver often runs down our spine. We laugh it off to our family, saying, "Oh, I'm just having a senior moment." But deep down, in the quiet of our own minds, a darker thought creeps in. We wonder, is this it? Is this the beginning of the end? Am I losing my mind? The fear of dementia and Alzheimer's is one of the most potent fears of aging. We fear losing our memories because our memories are who we are. They are the tapestry of our lives. To lose them feels like losing our soul. But I want to start this video with a message of hope and clarity. Not all forgetfulness is dangerous. As we age, our processing speed slows down. It is harder to multitask. This is normal. It is called age-associated memory impairment, and it is as natural as getting gray hair. However, there is a line. There is a boundary where normal aging crosses over into mild cognitive impairment or early-stage dementia. Recognizing this boundary is critical because early intervention can slow the progression of many conditions. In this video, we are going to explore 6 specific, dangerous signs of memory loss. These are not about forgetting where you put your keys. These are about forgetting what a key is used for. Please stay with me until sign number 6. It is a subtle change in personality and mood that is often misdiagnosed as depression, but it is actually the brain withdrawing from a world it can no longer process. Understanding this sign can save a relationship with a loved one. Let's begin. Sign number 1. Getting lost in familiar places, spatial disorientation. We all get lost sometimes, especially in a new city or a confusing shopping mall. But the brain has a built-in GPS system located in a seahorse-shaped structure called the Shutterstock. This area is responsible for creating mental maps of our world. When Alzheimer's or dementia begins, the hippocampus is often the first area to be damaged. This leads to a terrifying phenomenon, the erasure of the mental map. This isn't just about taking a wrong turn. This is about looking at a street you have lived on for 20 years and suddenly feeling like you are on an alien planet. Nothing looks familiar. The landmarks lose their meaning. Let's look at the story of Arthur. Arthur was 74 years old. Every morning for the last 10 years, he took his dog for a walk around the same 3 blocks in his neighborhood. He knew every crack in the sidewalk, every neighbor's fence. One Tuesday morning, Arthur turned the corner onto Oak Street, just like always. But suddenly, he stopped. His heart started pounding. The houses looked strange. He didn't know which way was home. He didn't know if he should go left or right. Panic set in. He stood there for 10 minutes, trembling, until a neighbor saw him and asked if he was okay. Arthur covered it up. He said, "I just got a little dizzy." But he knew. He knew that for those 10 minutes, his internal map had been wiped clean. The distinction. Normal aging. You forget the name of the street, or you take a wrong turn but quickly orient yourself using landmarks. Dangerous sign. You are in a familiar place, but you cannot recognize it. You don't know how to get home from the grocery store you visit weekly. If you or a loved one experiences this sudden strangeness in a familiar environment, it is a red flag that the hippocampus is struggling. Sign number 2, the loop, repetitive questioning. This is one of the most frustrating signs for caregivers, but it is one of the most heartbreaking for the sufferer. Short-term memory acts like a recording button. Everything you see, hear, and say is recorded for a short period before being filed away into long-term memory. In dangerous memory loss, the recording button is broken. The brain is not encoding new information. This leads to the loop. The person asks a question, receives an answer, and then, because the answer was never recorded, asks the exact same question 5 minutes later with the exact same tone of curiosity. Consider Martha, a 68-year-old grandmother. Her daughter, Sarah, came to visit. Martha asked, "What time is your appointment today, dear?" Sarah replied, "It's at 2 p.m., Mom." Martha nodded. "Okay, good." 3 minutes later, while they were drinking tea, Martha asked, "So, when do you have to leave for your appointment?" Sarah, a bit patient, said, "At 2 p.m., Mom." 5 minutes later, Martha looked at the clock and asked, "Do you have an appointment today?" Sarah felt a surge of irritation. She thought her mother wasn't listening. But Martha wasn't ignoring her. In Martha's reality, she had never asked the question before. The previous conversations had simply evaporated. The distinction, normal aging. You forget an appointment, but when someone reminds you, you say, "Oh, that's right. I forgot." You remember that you forgot. Dangerous sign. You have no memory of ever asking the question. Even when reminded, it doesn't ring a bell. You are trapped in a loop of the present moment. If you find yourself asking the same questions over and over, and you are genuinely surprised when people tell you that you just asked that, your short-term memory encoding is failing. Sign number 3. Struggling with familiar tasks, procedural memory loss. We spend our lives learning how to do things until they become automatic. Making a cup of coffee, following a family recipe, operating the washing machine, or balancing a checkbook. These are stored in procedural memory. When memory loss becomes dangerous, it attacks the steps of these tasks. It breaks the sequence. You might know what you want to do, but you can't figure out the order in which to do it. Let's talk about Robert. Robert was famous in his family for his lasagna. He had made it for Sunday dinner for 30 years. He didn't need a recipe. It was in his blood. But one Sunday, his wife found him in the kitchen, staring at the ingredients. The box of noodles was unopened. The sauce was cold. He was holding a block of cheese with a look of utter confusion on his face. He knew he wanted to make lasagna, but he couldn't remember if the noodles had to be boiled before or after the sauce. He couldn't remember how to turn on the oven to preheat it. The steps, which used to be a fluid dance, had become a jumbled puzzle. Later that month, Robert tried to use the TV remote. He pressed buttons randomly. He couldn't remember which button changed the channel and which one changed the volume. He got frustrated and threw the remote on the sofa. The distinction, normal aging. You might need help setting up a new microwave or struggle with a new smartphone update. That is a learning curve issue. Dangerous sign. You suddenly cannot do things you have done thousands of times before. You forget the rules of your favorite card game. You forget the order of putting on clothes, putting a bra over a shirt, for example. This sign indicates that the brain's executive function, the CEO that manages planning and sequencing, is stepping down. Mid-roll CTA, the pause. Before we move to sign number 4, which deals with language and is often mistaken for a tip-of-the-tongue moment, I want to pause. Hearing these signs can be heavy. It can bring up tears or anxiety. If you are recognizing yourself or someone you love in Arthur, Martha, or Robert, I want you to take a deep breath. Diagnosis is not a death sentence. It is a map. Once you know where you are, you can plan the journey. There are medications, lifestyle changes, and support systems that can help. But you cannot fight an enemy you do not see. If you are brave enough to face this topic, please subscribe to our channel. We are building a community that supports each other through the golden years, with honesty and dignity. And if you are committed to brain health, comment, "I choose awareness," down below. Thank you. Now, let's talk about words. Sign number 4, word salad and substitution, aphasia. We all have tip-of-the-tongue moments. You want to say spatula, and you can't find the word. You say, "Hand me the thing," for flipping eggs. That is normal. But dangerous memory loss affects the language centers of the brain, Broca's area and Wernicke's area. This leads to a condition called aphasia or anomia. This isn't just about forgetting a word. It is about losing the concept of the word or substituting it with something that makes no sense. Consider Sarah, 70 years old. Sarah was telling a story about her morning. She wanted to say, "The mailman brought a package." Instead, she said, "The man, the walking man. He brought the box thing to the open place." Or worse, she would use the wrong word entirely. She would ask for the butter when she meant the remote control. She would point to her watch and call it a hand clock. As the condition progresses, sentences can become a word salad, a mix of real words and made-up words that follow no grammatical logic. The distinction, normal aging. You forget a specific noun, like a name or an object, but you can describe it, and the word eventually comes back to you later. Dangerous sign, you invent new words. You use words that don't fit the context, calling a dog a car. You stop speaking mid-sentence because the idea has vanished. Language is the bridge between us and the world. When the bridge starts to crumble, the person becomes isolated. If you notice your vocabulary shrinking rapidly, or if people struggle to understand what you mean, this is a neurological warning. Sign number 5, poor judgment and financial vulnerability. The frontal lobe of the brain is responsible for judgment, inhibition, and logic. It is our internal filter and our risk manager. When memory loss is linked to dementia, especially frontotemporal dementia, the frontal lobe can deteriorate. This leads to baffling decisions that are completely out of character. Let's look at James. James was a retired accountant. He was a frugal man who saved every penny. He checked his bank statements religiously. But suddenly, James started buying things. He bought 10 vacuum cleaners from a door-to-door salesman. He donated thousands of dollars to a scam charity that called him on the phone. When his son asked him why, James couldn't explain. He just said, "They seem nice." The skepticism and logic that had defined his life were gone. It also manifested in hygiene. James, who used to shower every morning, stopped bathing. He would wear the same dirty shirt for 5 days. When his wife gently pointed it out, he would argue, "I just took a shower this morning." He truly believed he had, or he simply couldn't understand why it mattered. The distinction: normal aging. You might make a bad investment once in a while, or forget to pay a bill. Dangerous sign: a drastic shift in judgment. Giving away large sums of money to strangers. Dressing in a winter coat in the middle of summer. Neglecting personal grooming to a point of social awkwardness. This sign is often the most hurtful for families because it feels like the person is being stubborn or careless. But they are not. Their brain's risk manager has left the building. Sign number 6. Withdrawal and apathy, the personality change. This is the sign I promised to highlight because it is the most subtle and often the most misunderstood. We often think of memory loss as forgetting, but sometimes it looks like not caring. Processing social interaction requires a massive amount of brain power. You have to listen, remember what was said, read facial expressions, and formulate a response, all in real time. For a brain that is struggling with cognitive decline, a family dinner or a party is like trying to run a supercomputer program on an old laptop. It crashes. It is exhausting. So, the person withdraws. Let's talk about Elena, 69. Elena was the social butterfly of her church. She loved hosting dinners. But over a year, she started turning down invitations. She stopped going to choir practice. At family gatherings, she would sit in the corner, smiling vaguely, but not speaking. She looked bored or indifferent. Her children thought, "Mom is depressed." They tried to cheer her up. They tried to get her to talk. But Elena wasn't depressed in the clinical sense. She was experiencing apathy. She was withdrawing because the world had become too fast, too loud, and too confusing for her to keep up. It was easier to sit in silence than to try to process the chaos of conversation. She also lost initiative. She would sit in her chair for hours, staring at the window, not reading, not watching TV, just existing. She lost the spark to start an activity. The distinction: normal aging. You might get tired more easily and prefer smaller groups, but you still enjoy connecting with close friends. Dangerous sign: you withdraw from hobbies you used to love. You become passive. You sit for hours doing nothing. You lose interest in the lives of your grandchildren not because you don't love them, but because you can't follow their stories. If you see a loved one fading away socially, do not just assume it is sadness. It might be the brain protecting itself from overload. Conclusion: the power of early detection. Memory is fragile. It is the thread that holds our past and our future together. The 6 signs we discussed: getting lost, repetitive questioning, struggling with tasks, language confusion, poor judgment, and social withdrawal, are not normal parts of aging. They are the distress signals of a brain under siege. I know this is scary. I know the instinct is to look away, to deny it, to say Dad is just getting old. But denial is the thief of time. If you recognize these signs, the most courageous thing you can do is make a doctor's appointment. Many conditions that cause memory loss, like vitamin B12 deficiency, thyroid issues, or medication side effects, are reversible. And even if it is dementia, early diagnosis opens the door to treatments that can manage symptoms and preserve quality of life for years. Do not let fear silence you. If you are the person experiencing these signs, tell someone. If you are the family member observing them, speak up with love and compassion. Love the person, not the memory. The essence of who they are, their heart, their spirit, is still there, even if the details are fading. Thank you for spending your time with us today. This was a difficult topic, but an important one. If you found this video valuable, please share it. You might give someone the courage to seek help. Stay safe, stay observant, and cherish every moment. I will see you in the next video.